What's up, everybody? Good morning and happy Wednesday. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Always check us out. Stream it up at sportstalk1051.com. Get your Google and Alexa home devices. The app, video stream up and rolling right now. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Appreciate you making us a part of your start on this Wednesday morning of February 7th. Already halfway through the week here, baby. What do we got on the good old game plan for us? We're gonna hit up some hoops. Bucks ending their road trip with yet another loss last night to the Phoenix Suns, 114 to 106. The Bucks going 1-4 on their road trip. The Bucks did play without Damian Lillard last night, and Chris Middleton left the game after just playing 8 minutes, leaving in the first quarter there due to an ankle injury. Doc Rivers saying afterwards that X-rays were negative, but Chris Middleton was spotted in walking boots and crutches leaving the stadium. So, all things considered, I mean, to be in that game and I guess to lose by 8 is an accomplishment in itself, really. But you kind of wonder now with the Middleton news. Again, don't know how long he's going to be out, but I mean the fact that walking boot and crutches and all that stuff, it has to make you wonder if now will the Bucks be a little bit more aggressive to try to get a deal or two done before the deadline tomorrow. Trade deadline tomorrow in the NBA, but I have a feeling that maybe now with the Middleton news and such, Bucks may get a little bit more antsy with this thing. Giannis trying to do it, lead away, 34 points, 10 rebounds last night, 6 dimes. Malik Beasley, 22 points. Pat Connaughton did get the start, putting up 12 points. Bobby Portis, though, playing 31 minutes. Okay, 31 minutes, only scoring 5. Gotta get more production from Bobby Portis off the bench. Did have 9 rebounds, but offensively, especially with no Damian Lillard and Chris Middleton leaving the game early, gotta get more production from Bobby Portis off the bench there. Jay Crowder did play a whopping 40 minutes last night, and a lot of it was because of the Middleton injury, but he was able to contribute 10 points there. So Bucks will return home, off day today, but huge game. Doesn't get any easier because you're going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves at home tomorrow night there. So it's a small sample size, but maybe we're starting to see a little bit of a glimpse of the improvement from the defensive side of the Bucks right now. This was from Justin Garcia, who is the Milwaukee Bucks radio network analyst. But he had put this out there. He said, "I'll make sure to put this out. 8 games is not a large sample size, but since January 24th, the Bucks have the 8th best defense in the league, allowing 113.7. 5 of those 8 games against teams with a top 10 offense during that stretch." Now, if you're kind of maybe wondering, well, then what the heck, if they're playing better D, why are they losing these games? Kind of weird. Offense has kind of been a little bit of an issue right now for the Bucks. They haven't been really putting up as many points, from what we've, I guess, kind of seen for the most part, bigger part of this season. You look at, that Nuggets game, they only put up 107, Trailblazers 116, 117, 108, 106. For a team that was the second leading scoring team behind Indiana for a big chunk of this season, and offense has kind of maybe taken a little step down. But again, it's a small sample size. But when you're looking at it right now, Bucks defense may be getting a little bit better, but at what cost too? So I don't know. I feel like we're gonna see a deal done today or tomorrow. I think we're going to get one. Don't know how big, but I think that Middleton thing now is such a wild card. If Middleton, if they find out he's going to miss some extended time, do they make that move for Murray from Atlanta and kind of put together a big package that would have to include Bobby, Pat, Picks to bring in another scoring dude? We'll see. We shall see. So we'll talk some Bucks a little bit later on this morning. Staying with hoops, you've got the Badger men's basketball team, the 11th ranked Badger men's basketball team, also back in action tonight as they visit the Wolverines of Michigan. So Badgers riding that 2-game losing streak, looking to bounce back and pick up a win tonight. That tip time is at 6 p.m. But again, like has been the case throughout the entire college basketball season, another upset. Clemson beating number 3 North Carolina last night. Another top 5 team going down. So you had Kansas the other night, North Carolina last night. As has been kind of the theme throughout this entire college basketball season so far. So we'll hit that up, take a look at that. I'm going to talk some football. We kind of sounds like now we've got the full scope of what this Packers coaching staff, defensive coaching staff, is going to look like. Making some moves yesterday. So we mentioned Vince Ogobase as a defensive line coach. He's actually going to be the assistant defensive line coach because the Packers' current pass rush coach is moving to the defensive line coach, Jason Rebovich. They're also bringing in a couple of new position coaches. Anthony Campanelli, who's coming from the Dolphins. He was the linebackers coach over there. He's coming over to be the linebackers coach / run game coordinator for the Packers. Highly thought of across the league. If you are an avid watcher of Hard Knocks, you probably know him a little bit from a fiery speech that he gave the team. Can't play it because there's just a lot of F-bombs in that thing. But apparently the Eagles were trying to hire him as a linebackers coach. He had interviews with the Giants for defensive coordinator position. So the Packers able to land him. And then last night, they also brought in another former defensive coordinator to be their pass game coordinator. Probably going to work with some of the corners because he's a longtime cornerbacks coach, defensive backs coach as well. Derek Ansley, he is the former defensive coordinator with the Chargers, but has spent some time in the college ranks and in the NFL ranks. So it seems like the Packers have their defensive assistants. They'll probably, add a few more quality controls or maybe assistants position coaches as well. But for the most part, the main ones, it seems like they've got everybody signed, sealed, and delivered, which also means, and this was reported yesterday by Tom Silverstein from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, if this is a thing that matters to you, Packers will transition into a little bit more of a 4-3 defense, base defense. And I know it kind of gets beaten to death here, but again, it's the NFL. A lot of it is spent in nickel or a 4-2-5 sort of thing. But I think, when we talk about a 4-3 base defense, when we talk about this thing, I think the biggest thing to take away is Rashawn Gary. Two big things, actually. Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Preston Smith, those guys going to be playing a little bit more with their hand in the dirt instead of maybe standing up. Rashawn Gary, probably not going to be asked to go out in coverage, or Preston Smith, I should say. Preston Smith probably doesn't have to fill in the role as slot corner. Going to be having the hand in the dirt there a little bit. So I know that's probably going to be a welcome sight for a lot of Packers fans out there. But the other big thing here, too, is I look at the linebacking spot now. because if you do a base 4-3 and, even, I mean, again, it's good. A lot's going to be nickels. So, I mean, we may be over exaggerating it a bit because if you do 4-2-5, you're going to have two linebackers out there and you got the extra defensive back. But if we kind of just for a talking point or for argument's sake here, if we look at it from a base 4-3, Green Bay now I think has to look at that linebacker spot, and it becomes, I think, a bigger need now, or maybe a little bit of a bigger question mark, because you got to decide on Devondre Campbell. Do you bring him back? Maybe it looked like, okay, he could be a cap casualty, save a few $1,000,000, but now you're looking at it, it's like, okay, do we bring him back though? Quay Walker's fully into this. Isaiah McDuffie, is he ready for a bigger role heading into his final year? And even if it is those three, if it's just those three, you still need a little bit more depth. Now, I think, just me personally, a 4-3 style defense could benefit a guy like a Quay Walker, maybe a little bit more room to run, room to roam, if you will. Quay Walker is such a unique player because of his size. I mean, the guy is like 6'4". You look at a lot of those linebackers, maybe 6'1", 6'2". Probably a weak side linebacker where he will be able to kind of cover the field, roam the field more. But now you kind of wonder, okay, if Campbell's back, is he that middle linebacker? Do you put him on the strong side? Do you put, because of his size, maybe going up against the tight end, do you put Isaiah McDuffie in that middle? Is it Campbell that's still in the middle with the green dot? And then, can McDuffie play that strong side? And he's a little bit of a smaller linebacker. Can he, go up against those tight ends? So I think right now, for just argument's sakes, if we just look at it from a 4-3 base, even though maybe the majority of the time they might do a 4-2-5, but if we look at it from a 4-3 base, I think you look at that linebacker spot now and you kind of move it up on the list of like, okay, they may have to add one, whether it's draft, free agency, getting some depth over there. We know safety is still going to be a huge need for this ball club, but I would put in linebacker on this thing. And I think the other thing that tells me about this switch, or should we call it maybe an alteration? Because the one thing is that Jeff Hafley does, the new defensive coordinator, even though he does a 4-3, if you look at his history, he's also incorporated concepts of a 3-4, which I was happy to see. Like, I just want a defensive coordinator that's willing to be creative, mix it up, not so gung-ho and set on their ways, utilizing players to their skill sets, coming up with different ways to play some really solid defense and get after the quarterback and stopping the run and creating turnovers. So he's going to utilize that. He's going to mix some of those concepts in there. But I think it's also evident, too, that they know they've got to be better at stopping the run. And I think a switch like this is going to help that. Going to be playing a lot more guys, I think, up at the line of scrimmage. Talk about the corners, how he likes to play press man. You're going to have more guys up in the box. You're going to have a lot of defenders closer to the line of scrimmage here. And maybe, just maybe, not playing that style of defense where, hey, we're going to force you to put together long, successful drives. I don't think we're going to see that again with this defense, which I would think a lot of Packers fans, it's probably music to their ears at that point. But what are your thoughts? I know we probably don't know a whole lot about these coaches, right? Because, we got to base it off of what we hear, what we read about from people who cover them, or maybe what we see on TV. If you're a Hard Knocks guy or gal, but what are your thoughts on maybe the switch over to a 4-3 style? Remember when 3-4 used to be like the hot thing? I remember when Green Bay switched over to 3-4 and Dom Capers was hired and they go into the draft, and what do? They bring in B.J. Raji and Clay Matthews to kind of be the focal parts of that 3-4. They already had Charles Woodson over there on the back end, but you need that edge rusher, needed kind of a nose tackle up there. It's not like Green Bay has to go fully transform this defense. They got players. Kenny Clark may be even a guy who benefits from this too. Are we going to see the best version of Kenny Clark coming up this year? Something to think about. But what are your thoughts on this? Hit me up with a text, all right? 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Also, hit me up with your stock reports, whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling. And at 8:05, we'll do another edition of Business of Sports brought to you by Security Financial Bank. Sports fans might be interested in this. This dropped yesterday. ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers to launch a sports streaming platform. So they announced plans to launch this in the fall that will include offerings from at least 15 networks and all 4 major professional sports leagues. Now, don't know exactly yet of what games net, but I mean, it's going to include from offerings from ESPN, ESPN Plus, ESPN2, ESPNU, SEC, ACC networks, ESPN News, ABC, Fox, FS1, FS2, Big Ten Network, TNT, TBS, True TV. Is this something that it also will include games from the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, WNBA, NASCAR, college sports, including the NCAA tournament, as well as golf, tennis, and the FIFA World Cup. No idea what the price is, but as a sports fan, does this trip your trigger? We'll hit that up coming up in our business of sports segment at about 8:05. All right, let's get things rolling here this morning. We got the lead off. We'll throw in some Bucks chat with the. I'm going to throw 2 questions out to you. With the Chris Middleton news, with that ankle injury, we don't know the severity, but the fact that he was, spotted in a walking boot and crutches afterwards, probably not great for an immediate return. You got the All-Star break coming up, which, rice it, rest, ice, compression, elevate. Hopefully he'll be able to do that and maybe come back soon. But with that news and how the team has kind of played as of late, do you think it's a little bit more important for the Bucks maybe to make a quote-unquote splash move by the deadline tomorrow? And give me your general thoughts on what you've heard, your senses of what the Packers are doing, switching things up on the defensive side, maybe going to a more base 4-3. We know it'll be more nickel, 4-2-5 potentially, but for argument's sake, kind of focusing on that 4-3. What are your thoughts on that? And who do you think, maybe throw this in here too, who do you think will benefit the most player-wise from transitioning to a 4-3 style defense? Who do you think is a player that would benefit the most? I got a couple I'm going to throw in there. So we'll take that break, but start to hit me up with your texts, and we'll get things rolling here. Continue to get things rolling here this morning. Quick break. We'll be back after these few words. Okay, so you got a little extra money left from your tax return and you want to do something fun with it, like maybe spending it on yourself. But what? Well, if you're a hunter, how about a new deer rifle or shotgun for turkey and bird hunting? Anybody else getting the feelings for spring turkey hunting right now with this weather that we're having? I am. But anyways, now that I've piqued your interest, it's time to visit Tilden Gun. Family owned and operated. Sean and Hunter from Tilden Gun are ready to help you find that new deer rifle or shotgun for your next hunting adventure. With the biggest selection in the area, all at the best prices, they'll help you find just what you are looking for. You can either visit tildengun.com to check out their selection and order online or stop by at 12427 90th Avenue in Chippewa Falls to see what they have in their store, including their youth selection and their wall of handguns, plus all the accessories you need. So once you get that tax return this year, save some of it, spoil yourself this year, and upgrade to a new deer rifle or shotgun for turkey hunting this year. You deserve it, and let Tilden Gun help you find that firearm you're looking for. All right, already bottom of the hour here this morning. Do you think we're going to get to some? I threw out a few questions for you this morning to think about. In case you're just joining us, those questions are: do you think now, with the Chris Middleton injury, again, we don't know how long he's going to be out. We don't know that yet, but let's assume it's going to be for a little bit. And with the trade deadline coming up tomorrow, I mean, it's due tomorrow. Do you feel like the Bucks is it a little bit more important for the Bucks to make a trade? Maybe a little bit of a bigger trade now at this point. Maybe a guy like Murray from Atlanta. Yay or nay? You think it's a little bit more important? The other part here, which we'll get up, we'll talk a little bit about this coming up here in just a little bit. But Packers seem like they've got their main position coaches all filled out on the defensive side. They're transitioning to a base 4-3. Again, we're just, for argument's sake, I know it's a lot of it is nickel and maybe even a little 4-2-5, but for argument's sake, let's just, call it what it is, base 4-3. Who do you think, player-wise, will benefit the most from the Packers transitioning, switching it up to this style of defense? And do you like that the Packers are going to this style, to a little 4-3, moving away maybe from a traditional 3-4? All right. Hit me up with some text. I may turn one of those into a poll question, but I'll keep you posted on there. But I'm curious to get your thoughts, all right? So hit me up with that text, tweet, Facebook message, whatever the case may be. So we've got the NBA trade deadline tomorrow. Bucks 1-4 on their road trip, which also is 1-4 during the Doc Rivers era. And I've been trying to find some rumors and rumblings out there. We've highlighted different names with the Bucks. One now that's kind of popped up, and we mentioned him kind of quickly yesterday. But now Andrew Wiggins is a name being attached to the Milwaukee Bucks, according to Jake Fisher from Yahoo Sports. And I was reading a little bit from this. It says here's a little bit. The Warriors and head coach Steve Kerr in particular are fond of Portis because of his toughness and shooting ability. Those same traits, though, and their lack of front court depth are why the Bucks are reluctant to deal Portis. It seems that other deals may be easier for the Bucks to pull off at this point, but their pursuit of Wiggins indicates that they're looking at any and every option to improve their perimeter defense. While new head coach Doc Rivers should help improve their play on that side of the ball, he can only do so much with their current roster. And as we mentioned, this was a shout out from Justin Garcia, who Bucks radio analyst. If you look at the last 8 games, small sample size, but you look at the last 8 games, last few games, they are defensively have been the 8th best defense. And it was 8 games. And 5 of those 8 games going up against some of the better offensive teams in the league. The downside of all that is like, well, how come they're not winning more games? Their offense is kind of taking a little bit of a hit here too. Complementary play, right? How many times have we talked about complementary play with some of our favorite teams this year? Packers, complementary offense, complementary defense. Brewers, seems like that's been a thing for the last couple of years. One year it's really good pitching, not good offense. Another one is, then it flip-flops, really good offense, not good pitching. So again, without knowing the full details of Chris Middleton's injury, I feel like the Bucks may see this as like, okay, now we for sure have to make a move. That we need a little bit more help here. Maybe they're looking at a guy now that, for maybe what, last week you're looking at guys that, okay, we don't necessarily need a ton of scoring from this option. We're just going to bring him in for their defensive play, like a Grant Williams or a Wright from the Wizards. You're not really relying on them to be offensive players. You're bringing them in mostly to be defensive players. But I do wonder, depending on the news that they get from Middleton's injury, does that process change? Does that thought process change a little bit to where it's like, okay, he's going to be out here for a little bit. Looking at how our offense has been, maybe we do need a little bit more offense along with with an improvement in defense. So, yeah, we may have to up the ante. We may have to up the packages that we're offering here and go after a guy like Murray, go after a guy like Wiggins potentially. I feel like the Bucks now, it's kind of on the fence. Like I felt like they were going to make a move, but maybe a small move. I feel like now that pressure's kind of on, and I think they may make a couple moves or one kind of like, oh, okay, move. They might have to give up Bobby Porter though. They might have to give up Bobby Porter, and that's, I know he's a fan favorite, and I know the Bucks love him too. Front court depth, you're kind of looking at that, but you got to make a tough decision here. And the thing, it's just one game, but like last night too, where the Bucks really needed Bobby Portis to kind of step it up and fill a big time offensive need. 5 points, 31 minutes. No Middleton, no Damian Lillard. Got to get better offensive production than that. So you might have to see Pat Connaughton go, Bobby Portis go, Cameron Payne go, Portland's second round pick. So I do feel like the Bucks are going to make a move by tomorrow. A couple moves, either one pretty big move, and when I say big move, I'm kind of talking about like the Murrays and the Wiggins and such. It's either going to be one of those or maybe a couple of smaller ones, like maybe they bring in DeLon Wright or Grant Williams. Those guys in too. We'll see. But I think, yeah, the whole Middleton thing now kind of throws a wrench into this. They need a little bit more help. And considering how well the Cavs have been playing, the Knicks have been playing, we know the Celtics are probably the cream of the crop up there. But the way that those other two teams are playing, Philadelphia's, without Joel Embiid, they're probably going to fall down a little bit. But Cleveland and the Knicks, man, they're looking good right now. They're looking really good. They're playing some really good basketball. Cleveland's 9-1 in their last 10. So are the Knicks. Cleveland's on a 6-game winning streak. Those two teams, Knicks made a move a little bit earlier this season. RJ Barrett getting traded to the Raptors. They're going to be pesky teams. They're going to be really good teams too. And when you look at the Knicks and Cleveland, they play a solid defense too. In fact, when you look at it from the Eastern Conference side of things, Knicks and Cavs are the top two in terms of defensive points allowed. They're second and third overall in the entire league. The only team better than them is just across the border, the Minnesota Timberwolves, giving up 107.1 points per game. Yeah, I think the Bucks are going to make some moves. It's going to be hard, and they're going to have to make some tough decisions, but they're going to make some moves, no doubt about it. All right, let's take a quick break here. Let's get to some football chats. Packers got their defensive coaching staff, the main players in play, benefit the most from maybe switching to a 4-3 base. Let's get to your thoughts coming up after these quick words. It's tax season, so while you may be a little frustrated trying to track down your W-2s and whether you're going to file yourself or have someone do it for you, hey, think about the light at the end of the tunnel, the return, the tax return, some extra coin in your pocket. Now, what should you do with that extra cash that's burning a hole in your pocket? How about finally changing out that old ratty carpet in your home and getting some new luxurious carpet or vinyl planks from Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire? Whatever style of flooring you're looking for, or maybe you're not sure what style you want yet, the team at Carpet City Flooring Center is waiting to help you find that perfect new floor for your space. So, hey, what the heck you waiting for? Once you get your taxes done, go visit Carpet City Flooring Center at 3109 East Hamilton Avenue and chat with one of their awesome team members there. They'll help you so you finally get that new floor in your home that you've been wanting for a while now, and all at the best price in town because they will match or beat the competition too. Okay. So, Packers making some changes to some defensive coaches. We know that they got a new defensive coordinator in town, Jeff Hafley, coming over. And Packers also making a couple changes to some position coaches. So we mentioned Vince Ogobase yesterday. He's a defensive line coach. He's going to actually be the assistant defensive line coach for the Packers because their pass rush specialist coach Jason Rebovich is actually going to transition to the defensive line, be the main defensive line coach there. Packers bringing in a new linebackers coach / run game coordinator, Anthony Campanelli from the Dolphins. Again, if you are a Hard Knocks observer, you probably recognize the name because I can't play the clip. I'd love to because you might want to run through a wall after listening to it, but you'd have to bleep out every other word and it wouldn't just make any sense if you kind of get what I'm getting at. So, but he brings in a fiery personality. He is well thought of across the league. Giants interviewed him for their defensive coordinator spot. The Philadelphia Eagles were apparently trying to bring him over to be their linebackers coach. He is coming over to Green Bay. And then it was announced or reported last night by Rob Demovsky that the Packers are bringing in former Chargers defensive coordinator Derek Ansley to be their new pass game coordinator. Also, probably going to work with the corners. That's where his background is, working with defensive backs and such. So it seems like the Packers got their main position coaches in place on the defensive side. Probably still going to hire some assistants and maybe some quality control ones over there too. But for the most part, they've got their main ones. They're keeping Ryan Downard as defensive backs coach as well. So they've got their main defensive coach there, which means they're also, for argument's sake, we know a lot of it, majority, is played in nickel. But for argument's sake, playing in a 4-3 base defense now. Who do you think, player-wise, will benefit the most from the Pack moving to a 4-3? I've got a couple names. Here. One, I think Quay Walker is going to be a guy that could benefit from this. Strong side, weak side. My guess, and I could be completely wrong, my guess would be weak side. Gets to roam around a little bit more. Doesn't have to worry about the tight end, even though, he is a bigger linebacker. So maybe they want, when I say bigger, taller linebacker, so maybe they'd actually want him over there with the with the tight ends. But with his skill set, you maybe want him to roam the field a little bit more, helping out in the run game. My gut tells me he'll be a weak side linebacker. But I think that's a guy that could benefit from transitioning to this style of defense. You're allowing him to use his skill set to be all over the field, a little bit more across the field here. But I also think, too, when you transition to this, linebacker position kind of moves up in terms of importance. Now, do you bring back Devondre Campbell? A guy that maybe we thought Packers would move on to create some cap space this offseason. Now, do you think about keeping him to be a part of this defense? You got Isaiah McDuffie, who's also entering his last year. Or does Green Bay say, we're still going to move on from Campbell, maybe bring in a younger replacement for him? But I think now with this style of defense, you got to look at that linebacker position and is he a guy? And if Quay moves to like weak side, is Isaiah going to be the middle linebacker with the green dot? Is that going to be a rookie? I mean, I would think it's probably going to be maybe McDuffie, but I could be completely wrong there, or maybe that's why they want to keep Campbell to have that green dot there. Guy that calls the plays. But now I think that linebacker position kind of moves up on the list, right? Right behind safety, as in terms of like they got to address that, maybe get more depth there, maybe get a replacement for Devondre Campbell. But I do think Quay Walker is a guy that could benefit from this style. When I think of 4-3 defenses and some linebackers, Greenlaw from the 49ers, you want to go a little old school, maybe like a Lance Briggs, who was a weak side linebacker with the Bears. We know how good he was in that role, right? Go a little bit further to a Derek Brooks type of linebacker on that weak side. That would be amazing if Quay Walker could transition into that type of role. I think another player that could benefit from this is Kenny Clark. You're going to have Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness on the ends, hand in the dirt sort of thing. Now you're going to have Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, Slayton, whoever. But I think Kenny Clark's going to be a guy now that's going to benefit from having, either Rashawn or one of those ends with their hand in the dirt next to him. Not necessarily going to have to be like one of the two down linemen there where the offensive line can really focus. And Kenny Clark's coming off of one of his best statistical seasons of his career. But I think he is a guy that can benefit from this style of defense. I think that's a guy that is going to maybe potentially wreak some havoc on that defensive line. I'm excited to see Kenny Clark in this style of defense. I think maybe we could see that game, his game, go up a notch, putting him in position to affect games, as we like to say, right? So I think Kenny Clark's a guy that is going to benefit from this style of defense too. And I think with this style of defense, you're going to see a lot more guys closer to the line of scrimmage. We already know they want to play a little bit more aggressive in the on the corners, press man, right? I mean, how many times have we gone through the quotes from Jeff Hafley about got to play press man, the ability to play press man. He loves to play press man. Expect that. Talked about single high safeties with another safety maybe playing a little bit more in the box, closer to the line of scrimmage. You're going to see a different defense this year. You're going to see a defense with a lot more players towards that line of scrimmage, quote unquote, maybe that's what we call aggressive, which I think a lot of Packers fans are going to be excited about. It's going to be different. It's not going to be a style of defense right now, at least from all indications. It's not going to be that style of defense that we've seen the last few years where it was, we're going to force offenses to drive the length of the field, force them to try to be perfect. It's not going to be that way. At least that's what it looks like right now, which I think a lot of Packers fans got to be happy about, intrigued about, excited about. Does it open it up for maybe some potential big plays? Possibly on the back end. But I'm excited to see this. The wave of 3-4. 3-4 was such, I remember I watched a Vince Lombardi documentary, A Football Life in Vince Lombardi, and was it Sonny Jurgensen, his Washington quarterback, came to the hospital and visited him, and he said Vince wanted to talk about the new 3-4 defense that was making the waves in the AFC. And I remember when Green Bay transitioned to a 3-4 defense when Dom Capers came in. When Mike McCarthy hired Dom Capers, it was a big deal, 3-4 defense. What'd they do? They drafted Clay Matthews and B.J. Raji in that draft. 3-4 was kind of the style. Again, like, okay, we're going to go to this. Feels like now it's like, eh. And I think a lot of it has to do with the importance of the nickel corner. It's like, okay, we got to have 3 corners on the field. Base defense is kind of a thing of the past. More nickel. So you adjust that. But you're seeing some of those really good 49ers are 4-3. Jets 4-3. Seeing some teams kind of go back to that base 4-3 a little bit more. And I'm excited to see it. I'm intrigued to see this. I'm looking at a guy like a Rashawn Gary. Could he benefit a little bit more from this too? Hey, we're probably not going to see Preston Smith lining up in the slot if he's got his hand in the dirt. Probably not going to have to line up across the slot receiver or anything like that. Got to be happy about that. So, but I really hope Rashawn Gary, I think he's going to transition well. I think this benefits a guy like Lucas Van Ness a little bit too. And hopefully they can have like a Aiden Hutchinson, Bosa type of feel with this 4-3 and just get after the quarterback. Old school defensive ends and defensive linemen up there. Come on, baby. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see this go. I'm how it all works out. But I do think, we know safety is a big position of need for the Pack. That linebacker position is something that they're going to have to take a look at too. Whether it's free agency, bringing in a veteran, maybe in the draft. They bring back Devondre Campbell? Got a big cap hit. Also a fairly sizable dead cap hit, but you do save a few $1 million if you move on from him. But I think that's now a question, one of the bigger questions they have to answer for themselves this offseason is not only safety, but that linebacker role. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see this group. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. All right, coming up next hour, we'll get to some stock reports. Whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling? Hit us up with that text, 715-830-1912. Coming up in just a little over an hour, got another edition of the Business of Sports brought to you by Security Financial Bank. This potential new streaming package, a bunch of sports networks combining and going to give all the sports nuts out there something to watch. We'll take a look at that coming up in a little over an hour from now. We'll finish up the first, though. Morning, Morgs.
Oh, hey, good morning. I see you got your Chiefs and 49ers board up.
Yep. We'll get your pick on Friday.
Okay. So I got some time to think about it. Do you have yours picked already out loud, or are you still ruminating?
I know it, but I'm not saying it.
You're keeping it internal?
Yep.
Okay.
I got time.
All right. But Friday, you're going to debut it?
Yep.
Okay.
It's the marker board celebrity board.
I see. So now so far the 49ers have more picks, but not everybody's chimed in yet.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
All right. We'll be looking forward to adding a pick to that board.
Yeah.
So speaking of adding to the shelves, are you a trophy guy? Like, is that an incentive for you?
Used to be. Big time.
Okay, so then going back to kind of the big question.
Do you not remember my Pinewood Derby trophy I talked about all the time?
I had a feeling you were a trophy guy, a ribbon guy, all that kind of thing. Should all young sports players get a trophy?
No.
Okay. I am on the same boat. I'm not on a trophy just for playing kind of person. I think you have to incentivize it and give some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So we had an event last night. Boyceville does Coaches versus Cancer. For a long time they've done that, and great coming together. We had Glenwood in town last night for the game, girls basketball, lots of raffles, and all the money stays local in Dunn County for cancer efforts. So it's a great cause. But during that, they did part of handing out trophies for kids that did shot club during the summer. So shot club is basically you have a shot goal depending on age.
Okay.
And so for Siggy's age in the middle school range, it was 10,000 shots. So you go down and you log shots all summer and you write them down and you get your number and then you resubmit it to the shot leader and yada yada, and they bring a trophy out. So to this age, Siggy was all excited because she gets to add another piece to the shelf. What was your favorite trophy then for your childhood that something that you latched onto that you still think, or anybody that has one that's really special to them? And whether it's like from Science Olympiad or you have, like a team trophy for something, or you have the track meets are always good for individual ribbons and medals and things. Is there anything that stands out from your childhood?
Well, besides the Pinewood Derby one, because I had the Reggie White car.
Of course, 92.
Yeah, and I lost to a car that was carved out as a pig. I still remember that.
Oh.
It's 95,
Still can't eat bacon.
I know.
It's too fresh.
I don't know why. So, like, this one always stands out to me. Elementary, we always had for gym class, it was like the the student of the week or something like that. I
Okay.
always wanted the gym one for some reason.
Well, you
It was
guys
a
had
ribbon.
a student of the week in gym class only, like a special
Yeah,
FIA.
like the FIA teacher, Mr. Woolitz, would
What?
like hand out
That's
the,
awesome.
and I just like, oh, I wanted that. The one that then I remember in elementary school too, we would get these ribbons. It was a B on there, but I
Okay.
can't remember. And it would be like improvement in like a certain subject.
Like
And I
most
hated
improved in
school, so the
math.
fact if I ever got one of those, I thought was a big deal.
All right, to incentivize learning
Yeah,
in school
yeah.
versus just sports in school.
One that stands out is probably my first high school golf medal.
You remember what it looks like? Do you still have it?
Yeah.
Okay. What
It was
does it
at
look like?
Tomahawk,
Oh,
my
okay.
first one in Shala Golf Course over there.
Now, did you wear it afterwards?
No,
No.
no.
Do they do coat like anything with coats at the high school level
The
for golf?
Lettermans, yeah.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, there was Letterman jackets.
Did you
in there.
have one
I
for?
did.
Okay.
Yeah. But the golf one, yeah, it was my first one. And it was just because the first couple years I was trying to like I mean, for me for golf really quick, it's so hard. When you have like 35 kids on a team,
Right.
only 5 varsity, only 5 JV. So it's like an accomplishment just to get on that.
It is. It's prestige.
yeah.
It's I think trophies are an incentive. Not everybody should get one. You should have to earn what you get.
Yep.
All right.
Second hour kicking off on this Wednesday morning of February 7th. Big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. Coming up at the back end of this hour, we'll get to some stock reports. Whose stock is rising? Whose stock is falling? You can play along with us by hitting us up with a message on the Shoe Doctor's texting line over there, 715-830-1912, Facebook, Twitter, or the video stream. James over there commenting a little bit earlier saying that, as you stated, most defenses are nickel hybrids, 4-2-5 with one or two linebackers and flex. Could create 4-4-3 flex nickel on situations. This will depend on smaller, faster linebackers. I like it. The main thing that excites me is that Jeff Hafley seems to be given free reign to bring his people in. Also coming up at 8:05-ish, we'll do another edition of the Business of Sports brought to you by Security Financial Bank. Going to do a couple things here. We are going to hit up this potential new streaming package, bunch of sports networks combining and potentially offering a streaming package that'll come this fall. Tell you a little bit about that. And of course, with it being Super Bowl week, just how much does it cost to get a 30-second Super Bowl commercial? We will tell you that coming up a little bit later on here. So, what else do we got? Another coach. I saw that this was apparently from last night, but apparently the Packers are also hiring Miles White. He was on the staff at the Miami of Ohio. Apparently is highly regarded in coaching circles. He was most recently the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach. So don't know exactly what, maybe a quality control sort of coach over there, but yeah, still making moves with this coaching staff. As we mentioned a little bit earlier this week, Sean Mannion also going to be joining the coaching staff for the Pack. Bucks last night. Again, we threw out that question at the beginning with the trade deadline tomorrow. Do you think with Chris Middleton's injury that the Bucks may be a little bit more aggressive in terms of making a move before the deadline tomorrow? Get your thoughts on over with a quick text or tweet or Facebook message, whatever floats your boat here this morning. But let us know, do you think the Bucks should be a little bit more aggressive now with the Chris Middleton news? Again, don't know how long he potentially could be out, but the fact that he was in a walking boot and crutches after the game probably doesn't signal, very an immediate return, if you will. Probably not playing in tomorrow's big game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. But do you think now the Bucks will be a little bit more aggressive by the trade deadline tomorrow afternoon? So just give me a yay or a nay on that thing. With the trade deadline also coming up tomorrow, Luke, are your T-Wolves rumored to make any moves, or are they going to stand pats?
I haven't really heard too much specifically. I hope to heck they do something. T-Wolves fans are in a bad place right now.
Why is that?
I'll put it this way. If the Bucks are trailing by, let's say, 40 points at some point in the T-Wolves game, they're a lock to win. The Wolves have now given up 4 10-plus point fourth quarter leads over the last 10 games. Last night, they had a 22-point lead at the half, lost. That it's chronic with this team. They play bad basketball in the second half of these games of late. They need something. I don't know what, but right now they are playing. I mean, I this is not a hot take. If the playoffs started right now, they would probably lose 4-1 in the first round against anybody. They're not playing well at all. They need to do something. I don't know what that is. If they can DFA Kyle Anderson, and I mean, if they can just have him change the codes on the doors to have him not come in, that would be good. He's terrible. He had a technical foul last night from the end of the bench, which cost the Wolves about 1 point that forced the game to go to overtime. Like, what's going on with this team? I don't get it, and I don't know. There's a lot of immaturity on the team. There's a lot of stupid play on the team. There's a lot of complaining about the refs on this team when they could be playing basketball instead of whining about the refs. That's happening. They need to do something. I don't know what that is, though, because it's not like the Bucks have the obvious thing of either like backup point guards or wing defense. That's been a pretty clear thing. For the Wolves, I think it's just something more veteran. Something where it'd be like, hey, guys, can you focus for 4 quarters? And that's, I said like last week, Mike Conley can provide a lot of that. They evidently need something more than that. This is a really immature team of late, so I hope something is being planned.
Well, they need like the Ron Harper
type
type of player.
Something.
Derek Fisher.
Something along those lines. And I do think this is the skid for the season. This is not like they're going to keep blowing fourth quarter leads all year long. That's practically impossible to do. But they look a lot more like last year's Timberwolves, when for the bulk of the season they were a middling team. That's pretty much what they've become again. Maybe the really great start of the season was the aberration, and we're seeing the actual Timberwolves now, which are a so-so team that in an average year would be like an 8th seed. I don't know. We don't know yet. We got weeks to go, so I hope they do something by tomorrow as well.
Seems pretty fair. I mean, I know there was some moves already made, weeks ago and that sort of stuff. We talked about, the RJ Barrett one getting moved and Pascal Siakam and such, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of like the top teams, it's been kind of quiet out there in terms of some trades being moved. But when I say top teams, you look at the Knicks and the Cavs right now, and they're playing some of the best basketball in the entire league, both 9-1 in their last 10 games. So Bucks can't be screwing around here too much because they'll find themselves behind. Well, they're behind the Cavs now, but then tied up with the Knicks, but they'll find themselves further behind those two teams right now in the standings. So
how much LeBron trade talk are we going to do this morning?
Jesus.
2 hours worth or 3 hours
He's
worth?
not getting. Who says he's getting traded?
Where did that come from? Like, is this the classic LeBron hits at something and, oh my gosh, and now we got to stop everything and ponder LeBron trade talks because it's LeBron? Is this the only reason why collectively? Like, I wake me up when he gets traded.
Yeah, he's not.
He's not getting traded.
Yeah. We mentioned a few names out there. Andrew Wiggins. Apparently, the Bucks possibly may be interested in acquiring his services. We throw out Grant Williams, White from the Wizards. You've got Murray from Atlanta. With the Chris Middleton injury, again, not knowing the severity. I know a doc said late last night X-rays were negative, but the fact that when you leave a stadium in crutches isn't really the greatest sign over there. And I know the All-Star break is coming up here in just a little bit, but does that increase the urgency for this Bucks team? Bucks team statistically in the last 8 games has been playing better defense, but their offense has actually kind of suffered, taking a little bit of a dip there too. So, but with that injury, does that move the needle to make a bigger move for the Bucks? Do you think?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that
when Bobby Portis plays 31 minutes off the bench last night, and you have no Damian Lillard and no Chris Middleton, he only scores 5. That's concerning.
No, it's
you can't have that happen.
No, all in all, the reinforcements are necessary. I mean, like, I don't want to. We're not going to do the whole "let's bury Doc Rivers" thing again. Also, a little early on that. But something more. I really just about anything. Like if you could, I don't want to say if you could choose one player, but one type of player, whether it's by position or what they can bring to the team. You could choose one. What would that be?
If I could choose one, it'd probably like another different point guard, backup point guard sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think they can figure out the wing defense. Some of that is coachable. I mean, some of it, not everyone can excel at that, but point guard seems to be not much of a position for this team right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's too often what it feels like they don't really have one. I know we're in the positionless era of the NBA, but you kind of need something there.
It's either whether it's a backup point guard or just another guard in general, and maybe you move Malik Beasley to the bench and have that be your bench scoring, something along those lines. I know Beasley plays good effort defense, but I want a little bit better defense in the back court there. So
yeah.
And I do think, again, the big question is going to be Middleton, but even maybe with Middleton still in play, do you still look for a little bit more of a consistent scoring presence potentially? Who knows? But Brook Lopez being out too hasn't been helping the offense in these last few games either. But getting Robin Lopez starts,
Hey,
sarcastic thumbs up.
yeah,
So.
it's a family team.
Bucks, so 1-4 in their West Coast trip, which also is the Doc Rivers era, where they return home tomorrow night to take on the Timberwolves in Milwaukee. It's another back-to-back game, so they got the T-Wolves in Charlotte. Right after that, they get the weekend off, and then they welcome Denver and Miami next Monday and Tuesday. So doesn't get any easier for the Bucks for at least three of their next 4 games coming up here. So. All right, let's take a quick break here, and then coming up, we got Badger hoops. Badgers taking on Michigan tonight. Badgers are going to be looking to end their 2-game losing streak right now, the 11th ranked Badgers, but has been the case for college basketball all season long. Another upset last night for a top 5 team, North Carolina, losing to Clemson. Kansas lost the other night here too. So college basketball is organized chaos right now, but it's fun. Let's talk some Badger hoops coming up after these quick words. Believe it or not, baseball season is around the corner, which means spring training pitchers and catchers getting ready to go. I saw the Brewers, they're packing up the trucks, semi-trucks to head over to Arizona. So players are getting ready for another long baseball season this summer, but spring training doesn't just have to be for baseball players. It can be for you too. Tired of those aches and pains that you've been holding off on going to see someone for help? Not anymore. Spring on into Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and start your spring training so you're ready for an awesome summer. At Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, you will receive surpassed care delivered with compassion and respect. So get ready to get back into the game. Make your appointment today by visiting cvosm.com to get started. Again, that's cvosm.com. Ooh, a little spicy. All right, we got college hoops. Badgers back in action tonight, looking to end their two-game skid again. All right, I should just say two-game skid with the loss in Nebraska, loss against Purdue on Sunday. Badgers on the road against Michigan tonight. And when you look at the remaining schedule here for this Badger basketball team, you got a couple games, obviously, with Purdue at the end of the season. They do have to face Illinois one more time here. But if you're the Badgers and you are hovering around a top 10 team, you were just number 6 in the country, you got to imagine this is a schedule that you've got to take advantage of with Michigan, with Rutgers, Ohio State, Iowa, Maryland, Indiana before that Illinois game on March 2nd, right?
Yeah. This should, I mean, and I don't think they're like in a bad spot in general. Like there isn't. I know they fell to 11 in the poll, but I think,
Honestly, that's not as far as I thought they were going to fall. So
well, and I'm actually glad that the voters didn't go like, oh well, lost 2 in a row, they suck. I mean, you didn't watch the games. So for one, gosh, the Nebraska game was predictable. I know there was a big collapse, but still, the outcome was predictable. And then the Purdue game was close against one of the top 2 teams in the country. So does this mean the Badgers are a bunch of frauds? Please tell me we haven't had Greg Gard comments online in the past few days. Please tell me that is not.
If we have, I've ignored it.
Good.
So,
well,
yeah.
Okay. At least it hasn't bubbled up to the point where you can't ignore it. That's good. Okay. They're still one of the top top 2 teams, I still would say, in the Big Ten.
Well, the Big Ten, it's like Purdue, there's a gap. Illinois, Wisconsin, and then there's a bigger gap. To quote the Field of 68 and Jeff Goodman and such. So
they should still be fine. I mean, now another hiccup game would be concerning. Nebraska, for whatever reason you could see coming, I wonder how much that extended even to Wisconsin. The players you pretty much should take care of business going on the road. There really is no excuse to have a loss short of a major injury or something up to the
Michigan stinks. Let's just call it what it is. They stink this year. They're 7-15, 2-9 in conference play. They're riding a 5-game losing streak right now. Okay, they stink. So I mean, if you go into Michigan and you lose this one,
that's a bad loss.
It's a bad loss right now. You can't do that, especially when you've lost your last couple. This is a rebound game. You got to get back on track here. Go in there and just take care of business. There should be no reason whatsoever outside of injuries or something ridiculous like that or freaky like that. Go in there and take care of your business. You look at this upcoming schedule for Wisconsin. You should be. I mean, this is a schedule that, and I know college basketball has been weird this year, right? I mean, how many upsets have we seen? We already saw 2 this week of 2 top 5 teams, Kansas and North Carolina last night. But with Michigan, Rutgers, Ohio State, and Iowa, I mean, I know those are on the road. 3 of those 4 are on the road. Take care of your business. If you are a top 10 team in the country, get it done.
There's right. You cannot be losing to, I'd say, really at this point, anyone. Well, Maryland and under. Maryland, Rutgers, Ohio State, Michigan are teams that if you're serious about winning the Big Ten, but not just winning the Big Ten, but being like a 3+ seed in the tournament, you can't lose to those teams in conference.
You're looking at your next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, your next 5 games. All those teams have a below 500 record in conference play. Iowa's 5-6. Maryland's 5-7. Rutgers is 4-7. Ohio State's 3-9. Michigan's dead last at 2-9.
Yeah.
Take care of your business. Don't have a bad loss in that stretch.
Let's see. Where was he? Marquette was still a 2 seed, and this is now a couple days old. The last bracketology. Where is Wisconsin?
Probably fall into a 3.
Possibly. They are a 3 seed right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And 2 still felt a little high. I know they were there for a bit. They feel more like a 3 seed anyway.
Honestly, how much are seedings going to matter this year?
I don't know.
Maybe we say that almost every year. But, I mean, for crying out loud, we got Clemson going into North Carolina and beating them. Kansas State, beating Kansas the other day. Northwestern almost with a season sweep of Purdue, for crying out loud in the regular. I mean, I feel like you're going to see a lot of upsets in the first 2 days of the tournament.
Which we had last year.
We did, yeah.
Do I even bother making picks this year? Just kind of sit it out and be like, all right, stuff's going to happen. Let's roll with it.
Because how many times have we talked about when it comes to the tournament, it's so, quote, matchup based? Is that the case anymore?
I don't know. Well, it's tougher to. I mean, I guess in one regard, it's more matchup based in a pure sense, of size or someone who's a streaky shooter, something like that, because of the transfer portal. And I mean this in a general way. You don't have teams that have had a chance to gel. You don't have a certain chemistry going on. Nothing. Thus, it's all right. Well, who are these guys? Go bunch of short guys. Who are these guys? Bunch of wings. Okay, so how does that match up? Maybe that's how we need to be assessing this more. Put more emphasis on what they are on paper versus the intangibles, because I don't know how many intangibles are out there anymore. And definitely don't look at the seedings, because that could be based on, in some cases, reputation. I mean, certain schools are going to get, like I see Michigan State's up to a 7th seed right now. They lost to Minnesota last night. Now, Minnesota, mind you, is tied for 4th in the Big Ten. They're right behind Wisconsin. So does that mean Minnesota should be a 7th seed right now? Like, I can't believe I'm even saying that. Like,
dangerous 7th seed for Michigan State. I feel like if they get that, they're going to win, because they're going to the Sweet 16.
But that's the thing. Like, are they getting that? This is not a knock on Joe Lunardi, because he does a very fair version of this. But is Michigan State there because they're Michigan State?
Mm-hmm. There's certain teams that get benefit of the doubt. Absolutely.
And that's where a lot of us are gonna fall into that trap again this year. We're gonna pick Purdue to go further because they can't lose.
No, I'm not picking Purdue.
Not to win the championship.
No, I can't trust them in brackets.
Well, generally speaking, we should.
Sweet 16, yes. After that, no.
A lot of people probably will, though. They're like, well, but they can't do that again. Well, yeah, actually, they probably could. They could lose early on again. Could UConn? UConn is okay. Then UConn loses early. I'll bet UConn loses early in this tournament.
You think so?
Yeah, it just feels like it's the classic, like, win the championship, do better the next year, and then suffer early. We see that across sports all the time, especially college sports.
If they win again, they'll just get way down the line here. If they win again, Bobby Hurley, best college basketball coach in the game currently.
Ooh, wow.
I mean, that's back to back.
Yeah, because who else would it be? I mean, Ralph Sampson. I mean, Houston's now got 10 straight 21 seasons after last night.
Who was the last back-to-back? Would that have been Billy Donovan in Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
Bill Self.
Yeah.
Still out there. I guess if Marquette somehow won it all, Shaka Smart, do we actually go there and say he is one of the absolute best?
Mark Few at Gonzaga.
I mean, we're getting into some of we don't have as many of the usual suspects, because a lot of the usual suspects have retired. You get to where's I don't know. I think you can. Hurley enters the discussion later than he should have.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you asked,
you got Rick Pitino out there, but St. John's really isn't doing anything right now. So.
I think if you asked, of course you're gonna have Coach Cal, stuff like that, and Izzo, obviously. Like if we're doing fantasy drafting, who would you want for the next 10 years? Barring UConn completely collapsing, and even that might also be again a fluke of this upcoming tournament. I might take Hurley. I don't know that I definitely would, but he would be. I'd have to think hard about that.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the discussion now for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know UConn got some guys back this year, but the way they're playing, for sure, Bobby Hurley. Dan Hurley's in the discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. So Yeah, you're looking. Big Ten's down this year, though, right? I think that's fair to say. Is it down or is it?
It's a little down. It's extremely competitive.
I think it's down in terms of top teams,
right.
if that makes sense, because you got 3 teams in the rankings, and the next closest one, and if they redid the vote, they wouldn't be in there. Was Michigan State that got 1 vote in the AP poll?
Right.
That was it.
Yeah.
You got 3 teams in the top 11. Nothing after that.
Right. And I suspect one of those other teams, Michigan State's probably not getting that vote next week. Some combination of Minnesota, Northwestern, or maybe Indiana or Nebraska probably gets a vote or few next week. Minnesota is primed to get votes next week, provided they don't have a bad loss in their next game.
And this isn't to say that only 3 teams in the Big Ten are making the tournament either. You know, there's probably going to get 6, 7, somewhere around there.
Lenardi has 6 right now.
Okay.
Or as of 2 days ago, he has 6 going in. And again, if Michigan State falters, well, I mean, if you want to do the binary from last night, well, then you could slot the Gophers in. If they lose, you could probably slot in Iowa. I mean, there are some other ones you can start to move around here. So plus the committee still thinks of the pedigree of the bigger conferences. So that's where the Big Ten is going to get an advantage anyway. I don't know that it's going to be as big conference heavy like in some years where there are all the complaints about it's all SEC, all Big 12, all Big 10, all ACC. I don't think that's going to happen as much this year. No, the numbers aren't there to do it. I think it's going to be more balanced, but the Big Ten will be helped by being the Big Ten and by still being, like you said, it's competitive. It may not be that great of a conference this year, but it's night in and night out. Outside of like the Michigans of the world, you could have a pretty good game just about anywhere.
We might have, when we do that bottle cap challenge this year, where you get the random teams on there. Might be feeling pretty good if you get a Florida Atlantic or some weird team like that. Never know.
Yeah, watch the teams that are like ranked in like 16th or 17th in the country.
Yeah, I remember I always got Pepperdine and Texas Tech. I was like, I ain't winning anything. Well, Texas Tech's now in the top 25. You never know, I guess, at that point. So
it reminds me of like Iona or something like that.
Pepperdine was the one I always got on my Mountain Dew bottle cap. Pepperdine.
See, I always associate Pepperdine with the College World Series. That's where I first learned of the existence of Pepperdine.
Yeah, I never got a really good team. Never.
See, I'm looking at the poll right now.
By the way, can we bring back those bottle caps?
It'd be pretty cool.
I love that. I love that. Or you get a free 20 ounce. Remember the good old days like that? Gosh. Or you could just throw up $1, and that's when when I worked at Easy Stop full service gas station, shout out. You get $1 tip. We never barely got tipped. Whenever we got a tip from somebody, it was like a big deal. Okay. So everybody, no, we didn't get tipped. Made minimum wage, $5 an hour. So whenever we got out, it was like throw the $1 up, and that you could afford a bottle of pop. Good old days, man.
Solid. By the way, looking at the polls right now, again, if I'm trying to figure what's going to be that borderline team that goes on a run. Wow, Indiana State's 28th in the country right now? Man, I might take a flyer on them. I was going to say like Dayton, they are the Flyers, right?
Yeah.
That was not an intentional pun. But like Dayton or Boise State or Colorado State, it's going to be one of those schools that are like, what? They've never done anything. Well, yeah, they're actually pretty good. Those are going to be the Florida Atlantics probably of this year. If anyone's can actually legally bet, because of course it's still Wisconsin. If you can, there's your winner for the tournament right there. Pick one of those. That's what's good, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to be one of those schools. Colorado State to the Final Four. From where? But yeah, that's what happens.
Now I'm just going down nostalgia lane. I did get a jersey from one of those. Somebody gave me a Kentucky jersey, I think, at one point.
Ooh.
Don't know where that thing ended up. Can't remember who would have won that year.
What year was it?
That's what I just said. I can't remember what year that would have been. It had to have been early 2000s. Kentucky didn't win. It was just they picked the Kentucky jersey. Was it North Carolina? It might have been 02, 03, somewhere around there.
That would have been either the
might have been Kansas.
The Syracuse season?
Might have been, actually.
Carmelo Anthony, or the year before.
Syracuse.
One shining moment.
Yeah, it might have been that one.
Maryland. Yeah, right around that time.
I think it was the Qs. I think it was.
The Marquette Final Four run.
Yeah. I was so I remember that one. I was not a Marquette fan at that point. I was so into my brackets. I had Kentucky in the Final Four, and so when Marquette lost, I had a Kentucky basketball actually that I won from Valley Fair when I was in 8th grade.
Nice.
Yeah, so I had this. So, and I love Dwayne Wade, but I was not a Marquette fan just strictly because I wanted to win that bracket challenge at our work so bad. So when Marquette won, I took a knife and stabbed that Kentucky basketball and deflated it and threw it away. I was so pissed.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, Tubby Smith, thanks for ruining my brackets for work.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah. Yep.
Ugh.
It was a mini basketball anyways. It was one of those that you got from like hitting, I don't even know if Valley Fair still has it, like this ridiculously high basketball shot. It was like, it's higher than 10 feet. You know what I'm talking? Like sometimes at the fairs you have that. Yeah. I made one of those and it was like, you had to pick between Duke, Michigan State, or Kentucky for the basketballs.
Of course.
You know, those three. It's like, all right, Kentucky. So,
of course it would be that way.
My buddy Newman picked Michigan State, I think. So
let's see, the Valley Fair arcade.
It could be. I was in 8th grade, dude. So
because there is a Valley Fair. Of course I'm Googling Valley Fair basketball games, and yes, there is a there's basketball.
It was outside.
This one looks partially inside.
Okay.
You know what? You're gonna have to go back to Valley Fair.
Yeah, this was out. It was really tall, and I was all into basketball, and I think I spent like $50 trying to get a basketball. So.
I think that might still be a thing. I can totally see you taking Hudson there, then somehow you find that game, and you're that guy that's like, you go all Peyton Manning on everyone else, like, no!
I might have been trying to impress a certain lady over there, too, so just saying.
Oh, yeah.
Got the basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Got the basketball. That was about it.
Basketball Jones. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's take a quick break, and we will do some stock reports. Whose stock is rising? Whose stock is falling? We'll be back in a couple minutes. Sometimes you just need a little me time, and what makes your me time better is a great cup of coffee and a relaxing, cozy environment. That's exactly what you will get when you visit Cabin Coffee in Altoona. Why settle for a low-quality coffee for your me time when you can have a freshly roasted brew with many different flavor options located right in your own backyard? Need a bite to eat during that me time? Cabin Coffee has you covered as well with a menu filled with breakfast, lunch, and bakery items. Having a good cup of coffee just instantly puts us in a good mood. That is, if you get your coffee from Cabin Coffee. So take a little me time and visit Cabin Coffee in Altoona, located in the River Prairie area district, and experience what quality coffee really is. All right, time for some stock reports. Whose stock is rising? Whose stock is falling? Give you the honors first, Luke. Whose stock is rising?
Let's say the Clippers.
Okay.
I can't believe they played so well with the Harden trade after the. My gosh, was not expecting this. I'm like, oh, well, Clipper season done. Nope, they could potentially win the conference. They're white hot right now. I know they're not at the top, but they're moving in the right direction. You've got, well, earlier in the show, I was talking about all the problems the Wolves have right now. Thunder are not that experienced. You could see them slipping up a bit. Now, again, the massive asterisks to apply to the Clippers are they have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, known for their injuries, and in Kawhi Leonard's case, just kind of disappearing, and who knows where Kawhi is anywhere on the planet. And also, the other big asterisk is James Harden. Need I say more? But everything is gelling at the moment. Maybe this is the chemistry that sometimes chemistry works, and maybe they got it right now. The Clippers are a dangerous team at the moment. Their stock is definitely going up.
Mm-hmm. My stock riser, I'm going with the Kansas City Royals. Nice work extending Bobby Wood Jr. Young talents, 23 years old, one of the best players in Major League Baseball. They're going, trying to figure out a new stadium thing, and that didn't stop them from making the biggest or signing him to the biggest contract in franchise history. Royals fans got to be stoked about this and excited. So well done, Kansas City Royals.
Yeah.
Well done. Especially maybe that's a little bit more because of, what we're seeing with the Brewers. So,
yeah.
But that was solid move.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll be a playoff team, but I mean, that was well done.
It's investing in the future. That's a good thing for a team like that. I know part of it's probably to try to boost approval of a new stadium.
Now, you've been to Kauffman Stadium, right?
I have. Yeah.
Now, you liked it, didn't you?
It's gorgeous. I mean, I get that it's actually a half century old. It is kind of an old stadium, and at a certain point, concrete lasts a long time, but it doesn't last forever. Then again, the Chiefs are part. This vote that would be coming up in the spring would fund, in part, not entirely public money, a new Royal Stadium downtown, and then like renovating Arrowhead and everything kind of around it. So the Chiefs would not move. And remember, Arrowhead Stadium is the same age, essentially, like by a year as Kauffman Stadium, but a way to keep that. I guess if I had to choose between the two, and I love Kauffman Stadium's views and everything, but Arrowhead's got a certain thing about it.
Well, it's got a little bit more of a history now too, right?
Yeah, it's built that because of that.
Yeah.
At least in the Royals case, like they sound like they want to essentially recreate Kauffman Stadium downtown. So like with the fountains and the design and everything, makes me feel a little better about it. They don't want to go like ye old stadium. Well, they've got a thing there. So, I mean, it's a gorgeous place. There's really nothing wrong with it. But they also want to be downtown where they can, have more development opportunities. But I get it. So I think part of this is to goose that a bit more. I don't know that Bobby Wood Jr. is the reason someone switches from a no to a yes.
Yeah,
probably not. But there's no conduit. That's all pro. I like regardless of the stadium. Take that out. This is good for rebuilding the Royals, having a not good farm system. They made some interesting free agent moves. I'm not sure how great they are, but they're not bad ones. I think they're gonna be a plucky team this year. There could be some point in like May or late May, early June, like Royals are 2 games out of first. What? Could totally see that.
All right, stock faller.
Justin M from Tucson. You know what I'm talking about? Mark Murphy.
Oh,
yeah.
Why is that a stock faller?
His stock is falling.
Justin is?
Justin from Tucson. Seriously. Okay.
Are you talking about the Murphy's 5?
Yes.
Okay.
That guy. I like, it's the ultimate example of taking sports way too seriously. It's football. This
Are
is
you talking about? Is this the one that wants Murphy to quit, get fired?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Not
Not the other one that talked about defensive coordinator and fantasy football. And that,
no,
so,
no,
okay.
that guy's stock might actually be up, given that
Yeah.
what there was a story out yesterday that they found the guy. Like that was fun. Not this dude.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about now.
Yeah,
so.
Justin from Tucson. For those that didn't hear it, I'm going to very quickly do. I'm emailing today to express my disappointment and dissatisfaction with the franchise's direction. Okay, believe it is long overdue for you to retire and give control of the organization to someone else who's more properly prepared to take the team into the future. At that point, you're like, okay, someone's being critical. Okay, fine. Your leadership has been inept. You do not deserve to lead such a storied franchise. Please disappear into retirement ether. Nobody likes you. You have never been a good executive. I wish you the worst in your twilight years.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, Murphy had a great response.
Well, I was going to say, you could turn it into a stock riser for Mark Murphy.
I was pondering doing that. I kind of, I'm going to give him an unofficial stock riser because I officially gave it to the Clippers. Murphy gets an honorable one for this week because of his response. Like, yes, what was it? I also appreciate the 11 other emails you've recently sent with similar suggestions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope someone in Justin's life figured out that was him and like, all right, sit down. Why are you wishing somebody to have a bad life because they run the business part of a football team?
What are the odds this person's like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid?
Yeah, it's probably, yeah.
Actually, no, I'll take that back because it's probably somebody older, and never mind.
Yeah, it's either someone who, they probably own like 4 shares of stock, and have been whining about the Packers all through the Favre and Rodgers years. Probably wanted Mike McCarthy fired midway through the 2008 season. You know, it's that guy. Or it's 22-year-old who thinks they can really type a very, lucid email and then towards the end can't help themselves and go way over the top with the I hope you.
The reason I thought maybe it was an 18-year-old because when you said the Mike McCarthy one, I will admit this, okay? On record, it was 06. I very immature, okay? I was 19, 20 years old, okay? I did make a Facebook group page say fire Mike McCarthy.
Oh my gosh. You were in Fire Run Zook territory.
I did.
Ooh.
I did. I even went so far as to like nominate some of my friends, like build our own coaching staff that we could do a better job.
So wait, this is 06, so right after he's hired.
Yeah.
You were in like Adrian Griffin territory.
I fell into that trap that, I got a little more mature in my years. So, and as you know, I was a long time Mike McCarthy backer after that. So,
wow. Yeah. You see, people can change.
It's social media will get you when you're a young college kid. So.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like that, you kind of feel bad for that guy, and I hope people aren't thinking again. This is all entertainment for us. This is sports. I mean, if you're with the team, sure, but this is football. It's not that big of a deal.
And to be fair, the business side of things, Mark Murphy, for his job role, has done a pretty darn good job.
Also, that your leadership has been inept. No, actually, it has not been. Nobody likes you. No, like this guy is he's really, 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 really wrong. And then does the practically what did he hold off on? Like, and I hope your family burns to death in a fire. Like, did he think that was a step too far and held that off of the evil? Like, come on. Okay. So that's the stock faller of the week.
My stock faller, I'm actually going to Las Vegas and the Las Vegas mayor. I don't know if you saw this story over there, but she pretty much, and she tried to clarify it afterwards, but I mean, come on, know what you're saying to begin with. But she said that the Oakland Athletics should still try to figure out a way to play in the Bay Area. Quote, I personally think the A's have to figure out a way to stay in Oakland to make their dream come true, she told Front Office Sports Today podcast. She went to social media to try to clarify that she's excited about the prospect of Major League Baseball in her city, but she didn't really back off on her statement that the Oakland A's should try to make a relationship work in their city of Oakland. She did add, however, should that fail, Vegas has shown that it is a spectacular market for Major League sports franchises. Anybody? Yeah, that first of all, nobody cares about your retractions and all that. It's what you initially said. Not a good look. Stockfaller, good luck on your reelection.
Well, see, here's the thing. Where the stadium would be built is not in Las Vegas. Whatever she says basically has the same technical influence as, I don't know, Eau Claire City Council or the mayor of Milwaukee. Same difference. Because technically, and I saw someone mention that. I went, really? So I just looked it up right now. The Strip is just south of the city limits of Las Vegas. It's considered Las Vegas, but it's not. I think it's like Paradise, Nevada, to be technically precise. She might be upset because she couldn't get the athletic stadium to be in the actual city of Las Vegas.
So she's going after her neighbors.
Could be a bit, and so she feels a little more free on that, I guess. I mean, when I saw that quote, I was like, "Ooh, stadium in trouble." Which, look, this whole thing is not that smooth. I still think there's about I'll say a 10% chance that this still falls through.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot's not going right with this, even though I think it will end up with the Las Vegas Athletics. That was a very curious move on her part. Like, what do you gain by saying that?
Right, exactly.
Like, and again, I want the A's
ill-informed.
Right, I want the A's to stay in Oakland, but what is this? Does this make everything change now? I don't know. Like, there's got to be a different way to do it than say that and then do the retraction thing. Like, can she show up at the new A's stadium after saying this?
No.
I mean, you're I mean, the Goodmans have, like, her husband was, I think, the mayor for a long time. So they're like Las Vegas institutions in a political sense, but still, that's what's the motivation there?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So
curious.
Yeah. All right. Shot clock's going to cut us off here in a couple minutes. So coming up next, we'll do our business of sports segments. Got a couple things here. We'll lightly touch on the Super Bowl. It is a big week. It's a big week in the sports business world here too. But news dropping yesterday. I mean, I feel like we've been talking about sports streaming for a lot, and now we've got apparently ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers set to launch a sports streaming platform. We'll tell you a little bit about that and potentially what that means, and maybe some more options to watch this for. I don't know, but we'll hit that up. Any guesses, really quick, on how much it costs to run a Super Bowl commercial, or do you know that answer already?
I think I've seen it, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So I will be fresh on this one.
You'll be fresh. I was going to quiz you right now. If do you have a guess?
I mean, is it like 60 million?
How much?
60 million.
Okay, that's your guess.
Yeah,
for
now,
a 30-second commercial.
Now I could be like way out. I'm saying that because I thought I saw that number bounced around, so it's all relative to what I thought it was.
Okay, I'll tell you after the break. How about that? Don't look it up now.
I'm not going to look it up.
Okay, so all right, shot clock's coming up, so we'll get to that. Plus, we'll get back to some more hoops talk questions that we're throwing out there. Do you think with the Chris Middleton injury, again, we don't know how long it's going to be, but do you think that makes it more important for the Bucks to make a move by tomorrow's deadline? I feel like that deadline's kind of like flying under the radar. Trade deadline kind of flying under the radar here a little bit. Seems to be a little quiet. If this was the NFL or Major League Baseball, it'd be all over the place right now. Trade deadlines. Basketball maybe a little bit quiet, but we'll get to your responses from that. It's coming up here in just a little bit. 2 hours in, we got one more to go. Stick around. We'll be back after these quick news updates. third and final hour kicking off this morning. Big thanks to everybody tuning in, wherever, however you're tuning in. We'll get back to some more hoops talk here. Trade deadline coming up tomorrow. Will the Bucks make a move before the deadline or not? And how big of a move will they make? We'll go over some of the latest rumors and rumblings out there. We begin this hour, though, with our Business of Sports podcast. Let me rephrase that.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you, right? Wow. Yeah, Andrew Brandt, shut up. We begin with our Business of Sports segment brought to you by Security Financial Bank. And with, the Super Bowl is going on, in case you haven't heard. Super Bowl is going on right now.
What?
Yeah, right?
What?
And one of the other parts of the Super Bowl, how much do you get geeked up for the commercials? Do you still get geeked up for that? Like
I still do, but in the past few years, there haven't been many wow ones. So I'm getting less geeked up than I was up until about that time. There's like a formula to so many of them.
Right. I'm kind of the same way, to be honest with you. I still, in recent history, recent memory, I can't think of an iconic one like I can when I was a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's going to be a lot more playing it safe this year anyway. So whatever that formula is, expect more of the formula. I won't try to describe it, but you'll know it when you watch the commercials. You'll recognize it, like, oh, this template.
So what is the cost of a 30 seconds commercial for the Super Bowl? $7 million.
Oh, okay.
$7 million, which is actually the same as last year. So compare it all the way back to Super Bowl I, Lucas. The only Super Bowl that wasn't sold out.
The AFL NFL World Championship game.
1967, a 30-second commercial cost $37,000 and $37,500.
I'm not even going to bother with the inflation calculator because that is not going to translate to $7 million in $24. Not even close.
The first time it topped $1 million, $1 million was Super Bowl 29, 1995. Wow. $1.15 million. Was the first time it topped. The year before, it got close, $900,000. So first time it topped $2 million, Super Bowl 34, 2000. First time it topped $3 million. I got to know my Roman numerals here, so bear with me. Super Bowl 45, Packers, $3.1 million. First time it topped $4 million, 2014. That would be Super Bowl. Here we go, Roman numerals.
At that point, I'm just like, who was in the game?
Yeah, I think this was this the Seahawks one?
So what Super Bowl? What are the Roman numerals?
XLV3.
XLV I. So that would have been. I always the shortcut as I go back to the original ones where it's kind of easy to remember and then just apply that with the X's and the.
It's got to be 48 then.
So that would have been
48.
Right. So that would have been Seahawks Broncos. Right.
Yep. So that's the first time at top 4.
The New York Super Bowl.
Yeah. What I thought Super Bowl 50 was a New York Super Bowl.
That was Santa Clara.
Was it really? Oh yeah, you're right. Yep.
Yeah, because that was the one. It's gonna snow, and then it ended up being like 50 degrees.
Denver won Super Bowl 50. Denver lost the New York one.
Correct.
Yeah. So 51 actually Super Bowl 51 is the first time it topped $5 million, and then the first time it topped 6, skyrocketed. Went from 5.5 million in 2021 to 6.5 million in 2022. That would be Super Bowl 56. Yeah, 56. So, yeah, first time it topped 7 million was last year. So, there you have it. $7 million.
So why is
if anybody's wondering, doesn't cost that much to buy a 30-second commercial for sports talk. Just saying. So if you want to get more bang for your buck there.
Hey, yeah. If you don't have $7 million to spend, you can get it way cheaper. It's not $7 million, that's for sure.
Right
here. Hey, and it didn't go up this year. So what's wrong with the NFL?
Yeah, no kidding.
Are people turned off by Taylor Swift? See how I tried to make a controversy.
It's I know that's like a topic. Like, are you tired? I don't have anything against Taylor. I'm just tired of the constant media attention that they're giving it to it. It's the Tim Tebow effect.
Well, and also I think there's been more attention about the attention at this point. It's not even. It's funny. there hasn't been that much talk about actually like, oh
Yeah,
my
they're
gosh,
out-
Taylor
you're right.
Swift.
Yep.
It's arguing about it.
Yep.
It's a very meta discussion for the last week and a half.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep, I would agree with that. So there you have it, 7 million. And I think part of it too with the whole commercial thing, the age of the internet where a lot of it gets leaked out.
Well, now it's intentional. It's
Yeah.
like it started last week. Doritos unveils their Super Bowl commercial. I'm like, 10
Or you're getting
days?
teases during the games like Arnold with State Farm or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's like coming soon. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, also, that was part of the appeal of the Super Bowl ads. What's coming next? Ooh. Now it all comes out in advance. I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe I don't really need to watch the Super Bowl commercials.
Mm-hmm.
I can walk away at that point, which I guess it doesn't really show up in the ratings. I know there's the ability to track minute by minute to see how people are watching. And also, people aren't going en masse to YouTube. A lot of people do, but it's not like all of everyone who would be watching is instead going to YouTube and watching the ads and thus not watching during the breaks. The vast majority are first going to see the ads during the Super Bowl broadcast. It's the same for me. I'm not going to spend extra time watching individual YouTube ads and then watching a 15-second pre-roll for another ad, and then a 10-second pre-roll for another ad so I can watch an ad.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just going to wait to the game and watch it.
Yep, I'd agree. So the second part of this for the business of sports, the news that dropped yesterday was that ESPN, Fox, Warner Brothers to launch a sports streaming platform. It was announced yesterday that will include offerings from at least 15 networks and all 4 major professional sports leagues. A one-stop app to view most sports out there. Just a little bit more here. I'm reading from the mothership ESPN. The platform will include games from the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, WNBA, NASCAR, and college sports, including men's and women's NCAA tournament, as well as golf, tennis, and the FIFA World Cup. It will include offerings from 15 linear networks: ESPN, ESPN Plus, ESPN2, ESPNU, SEC Network, ACC Network, Big Ten Network, ESPN News, ABC, Fox, FS1, FS2, TNT, TBS, True TV. Subscribers will also have the ability to bundle the product with Disney Plus, Hulu, and or Max.
I love how they throw True TV in there solely for the NCAA
Right?
tournament.
Yeah.
Great. So
their viewership skyrockets in March.
for like 2 days. So you're going to have True TV for like 364 days out of the year with just whatever is on True TV.
Unless you're like a true crime.
I mean,
sort of
there's
buff there.
appeal to that. But otherwise, if you're a sports dude, at least you're good for those early games. Where otherwise, you're like, where is True?
Yeah, you don't know the dial, what True TV's on, probably.
This
So
fixes that. It's hilarious and yet forward thinking at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked a lot about streaming services, I feel like, in recent history. But your thoughts, your initial thoughts when you first heard this, is this something that you would be interested in potentially signing up? We don't know the price. Apparently it's going to launch in the fall. We're fall football time, right? Perfect time to launch something for sports. Let's do it around football because, that's where you're going to get most of your signups there probably.
Of course.
I guess for me, the big thing is me being a sports nerd, a lot of it's going to depend on price. What's that price point?
What's the
And here's the thing, I already get a lot of those channels already.
Yeah.
So what's the selling point for me with this thing? Maybe it would be if you don't have those, I guess, but
right. Like I want to know what's left out.
Yeah.
That's the hiccup with all of the assorted like streaming packages, like you do Sling or YouTube TV, but inevitably there's like that one channel you have. Like I can't tell you how many times like I could go without cable. Honestly, I so rarely watch TV, but like in my mom's case, she grew up more with cable, so she's more used to that. She has a certain number of channels that she likes to watch. So I'll be like, all right, let's see if we can find something that's like cheaper than cable. And inevitably there's like 5 channels she watches, and each provider has like one of them missing. Like, what? So what? So you end up sticking with the original plan, the cable bundle, which I think leads to the joke about, hey, so this is basically the cable bundle once again.
Well, that's what I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know if you saw this from The Athletic. So Andrew, is it Marchand?
Andrew Marchand,
Yeah, wrote an article, and there was a quote in there. It says, Jason Stark quoted this, said, "One day the brilliant TV executives are all going to unite and put their programming under one roof. They will solve all of your sports viewing problems. They will call it cable."
Yep. And it's not exactly that, but it kind of is in a way. It's like the sports cable package in a way. So I want to see what's the one key thing. It looks like they've covered a lot of the bases, but right now I'm okay. So games from MLB, but is MLB Network on this?
Right.
I loved watching MLB Network years back, and then it got thrown up to a higher tier on cable, and I kind of missed that. If that's not there, hey, NBA TV's not there. How many times
NFL Network's not on there?
True. I mean, there's some pretty significant games that end up on those, like the overseas games, the NFL Network. How many times do you have like a big key Bucks game? It's on NBA TV. Oh, all right. Well, I'll check the highlights later, I guess. See, that's the sort of stuff I want included on this. Those channels that probably don't get great ratings, but they have a sneaky high number of games that you really, really want to watch. Now, asking for like the RSNs, which again, there's the question of how long do those last, even with the Amazon bailout stuff. I don't know. But that's probably a bigger factor for me.
Mm-hmm.
Price would be the next consideration. So what is your? I can already tell you're a bigger sports fan than I, so you probably have a higher value than I would. What is your cap for this service as set?
My cap on how much I would spend per month, let's say, right?
Yes.
I'm going to go cheap on this thing. $5 to $10 a month. Because my big thing here is like, I'm assuming a lot of those are going to be national games that are included on this, right?
Probably.
Like honestly, probably some games I could give a rip about. I want to know my Packers, my Brewers, my Bucks, and my Badgers. Okay. Big Ten Network is already on. But the other part of me here too is like, I already get Big Ten Network. So what's the selling point? Is this all of a sudden going to be like, hey, if you want Big Ten Network, you got to get this pack? Then that changes.
Mm-hmm.
If I already get it, am I going to continue to get it? Is kind of what I want to know. I would assume so. But if it's going to turn into, hey, you want Big Ten Network, or you want ESPN, or you want TNT and TBS, it's not going to be included on your typical Hulu package. You got to get this add-on package now. That changes things for me then.
Yeah.
But if it's already included, for me, it's like $5-10. But if it's outside that, where now you're telling me you're removing these channels from my lineup already, and if I want to get them, I got to buy the sports package. Well, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, my willingness to pay a little bit more is going to go up at that point.
Yeah, because a lot of these I have or I have no interest in watching.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the ACC network.
Yeah, I don't care about SEC network.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally there's for me there'd be like a Gopher game that's on ESPNU, but that's like 1 or 2 a season, and I'm not that much of a diehard that I have to watch the game.
And we got some Badger football games that are on Big Ten Network, that sort of stuff. But I already get them,
right?
So
I have ABC and Fox. Heck, I can watch ABC and Fox over the air for free if I want.
Mm-hmm.
True TV. I mean, if I miss a handful of NCAA tournament games that are on True TV, yes, I might miss an absolute classic buzzer beater, but the vast majority, I mean, good luck remembering which games were even on True TV in a given year. You'll probably forget after like 2 weeks.
The thing that might push me over, and it's not included on this thing, but the thing that might be like, okay, if they had to make it a more like the option to watch all of your local baseball games on there.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm getting? Like, oh, you're telling me I can maybe tune into all the Brewer games or Twins games or something like that? Okay, now we're talking.
Yes, that changes this. What
baseball games are included? Is it just the national ones that are on Fox, or Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN?
Well, in effect, make it like the windows for where NFL games are determined, for where basketball games are determined, for where baseball games are determined. So if you live in Eau Claire,
right,
then you can only access certain ones, but everything is available. You've got it's an all-in-one Wisconsin app, and maybe again depends on where you're at. So like far western Wisconsin, and maybe as far as Eau Claire, like there's a Twins and Timberwolves overlap, for example, or right down in like Racine, Kenosha, you get a little bit of a Chicago overlap because they know they're going to be fans there. But that only applies for like Racine, Kenosha counties. Milwaukee County won't get that. It's all going to be with that sort of thing. If there is some way, and then you got to get into location-based stuff if people that maybe that's a little bit too much. I could see where it could work, but a lot of people don't enable locations, and then you got an issue. But I want to see more of the ability to watch your own team. I'm trying to figure, and there's an answer for this. I'm trying to figure the core target for this. I suspect it's people that have cut the cord, but also don't really have like a solid sports solution. And it's the idea of, okay, maybe you got ESPN, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. When you try to go to those other streaming services, there's always that one channel that you're missing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just in a general sense, you can kind of run into that a fair amount. Like, yeah, they got the ESPNs, but they don't have the Turners. Well, this covers all of that.
And I wonder too how much like sports bars. Where, they don't need the whole package of like where it includes Lifetime or History Channel, where it's just going to be straight up sports. Well, here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah, I could see that. I honestly don't know how well this is going to do.
Yeah,
this is kind of I guess now would be antiquated, but those who are old enough will remember the Baseball Network?
Yeah.
Mid-90s.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not an exact that's not an exact analogy, but one of those things that we're going to cover everything as part of this package, and then it didn't work. I understand why it's being done. Same here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm intrigued. Let's see what happens, because at least nothing's being taken away. So cool. Let's see if it works, and maybe there's some way that it can be built upon. That price is going to make a big difference too, because like right now, I wouldn't pay for it because I have enough of those channels, and I know I've got ESPN Plus, so there'd be a bundle thing. So like those of us that have ESPN Plus probably would pay a discount, because you're not going to pay twice.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. If it's like 5 or less, I'm not going to pay for it right now, because there's too much of that I already get.
Yeah, that's the main thing for me, is like I already get the majority, the ones that I want, I already get. So
now, if I completely got rid of cable, like I said, I don't really watch it, but I still have it. Now, if I got rid of it, maybe if there's not some other service that like my family, my wife and I sign up for, and there are a lot of those channels that are missing, then I might be in the ballpark for it. And if it's like an additional 5 to add on to ESPN Plus, then maybe I would be in. But it has to be something like that where I don't have all those other options already on the table.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm assuming too, like Amazon's not going to be in this for their Thursday Night Football, right?
No.
So,
and that's where the Amazon RSN thing is so much more intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Still got to see what that's going to be. Like, is that really just going to be part of Prime Video or get Brewers and Twins games? Or is that for $39.99 a month, you get like, oh, okay, never mind. It's like a premium part of Prime Video. I don't know. That's all to be determined.
Right. All right. That's going to do it for our Business of Sports segment. Again, brought to you by Security Financial Bank. Let's take a quick break, and we'll switch up gears here a little bit. We'll chat a little football. It is Super Bowl week, in case you haven't heard.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get Luke's pick a little bit later on to put on the marker board, but let's chat a little football coming up after these quick words. We are always looking to save a little money in our pockets, but we still need our essentials like our grocery items. So how do you save some money while also getting what you need for your family? That's Hy-Vee Perks. If you shop at Hy-Vee, you're already getting a great deal on quality items throughout the store. But now you can save more money with Hy-Vee Perks on different items each week. And also you can save some money at the gas pump with your Hy-Vee Perks. Who doesn't want to save a little extra money at that gas pump? You know what I mean? Saving some money is easy if you shop at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. So take advantage of these awesome deals and sales and stop on over at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire today and maybe get your Super Bowl big game menu ready to go. Have you figured out what you're going to put on the menu for Sunday there, big boy? Foodie Lucas?
Well, funny that you say that. Because I'm probably going to go over to that Super Bowl party in Altoona that my wife and I and now daughter typically go over to. So that means we don't have to do like all the cooking. I would like if I were home, it totally would be like something barbecue and something. I got to figure out what's like really like classic Bay Area, and I've never really thought that one through.
Rice-A-Roni.
Sometimes we do have that'd be hilarious. Barbecue ribs and rice-a-roni. The San Francisco treat. But I was actually thinking yesterday, I got a Facebook message. Ricardo is his name. He always hosts it. Because he's from I mentioned him before. He's from like San Antonio. So he does like the like actual like Tex-Mex, like the Texan Mexican sort of thing. Pretty authentic from down there. It's pretty awesome. But I'm gonna ask him, what do you want us to bring? It's probably gonna like, I'll bring dessert. Okay, cool. So I gotta figure that out fairly quickly. But that's it. Whatever is on the menu over there, and should be pretty well fed. And I imagine there will be something involving bacon wrapped jalapeno poppers.
Okay.
Probably on the menu.
Nice.
For this one.
Nice.
It's gonna, whatever it is, it's gonna be good.
All right. All right.
What about you?
Not our Hutsy's looking forward to the nachos. Okay. He's all about that. I asked him again last night, and he said nachos plus ice cream plus cupcakes plus cookies. So yeah.
Dang, that is such a kid thing.
Yep.
Wow.
Exactly. So
not bad. It's the Super Bowl. I mean, go for it. Sure.
Mom and Dad will have a little bit more adult food included. Caviar. I can't eat all that. So, well, yeah. I've never had caviar in my life.
I don't think I've ever had caviar either. Like, I think you could buy it now. Like, I used to think, oh, do I have to live in the
go down to the river and catch a sturgeon? There you go. Yeah. So,
hey, birth some eggs. Cool. Caviar.
Yep. All right. Speaking of football, we got the Packers. It seems like they're kind of wrapping up their defensive coaches, putting together their staff here. So it was announced yesterday, not officially by the Packers, but widely reported. They've got their new linebackers coach, Anthony Campanelli. If you are a Hard Knocks viewer, name might sound familiar. I can't play the clip. We would get heavily fined. But I'm sure if you look around the interwebs, he was a little famous for a speech or a talk he gave to his team. Let's just say every 2 words had the F word in it. But it makes you want to run through a cement wall, I'll tell you that. But he is now aboard, highly regarded across the league. Apparently, the Giants interviewed him for their defensive coordinator job. Eagles, Vic Fangio was trying to bring him over to Philly. He goes to the Packers. Packers also last night, according to Rob Demovsky, bringing in Derek Ansley, who was the former Chargers defensive coordinator. He is going to be the pass game coordinator, going to work with the corners. That's his background over there as well. So Packers moving their pass rush specialist, Jason Rebovich, to defensive line coach. They're bringing in Vince Ogobase. I had to look that up yesterday, as the assistant defensive line coach. Ryan Downard staying on as defensive backs coach. So with all that, as Tom Silverstein from the Milwaukee Journal also reported, Packers will transition into a base 4-3 defense. So back to a 4-3, but we know it's base defenses are kind of a thing of the past when it gets to the NFL. You got nickels, so maybe a little 4-2-5 type of defense over there. But are you happy as a Packers fan that the Packers moving a little bit to a 4-3? Remember the whole excitement about 3-4 defense back in the day?
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, I feel like it doesn't The whole 4-3-3-4 style, that doesn't really mean a thing to me anymore at this point. It's so I think if you're not incorporating concepts from multiple defenses, you're really not up into the times with your defense. That's how I feel with this. So
Yeah, I mean, whatever works basically. Like I don't know that 3-4-4-3 matters much outside of skill sets.
mhm.
If it matches, great. If it doesn't, don't do it. It's that simple.
Yeah. And I think Green Bay's that I would not expect. So like when Green Bay switched over to 3-4 when Mike McCarthy hired Dom Capers, you really had to go through an adjustment year because that draft is when they got BJ Raji, traded back and got Clay Matthews in the first round. You were kind of playing some people out of position. I remember Aaron Campman had to transition into an outside linebacker. He was a defensive end, but he had to so he had a little bit of a transition. I remember that whole 09 season. Everybody talks about, learning the system, transitioning, going to take a little bit, et cetera, et cetera. Cullen Jenkins was a defense tackle. Now he was a 3-4 defensive end, that sort of stuff. I don't sense that with this defense because I feel like you've got a Rashawn Gary, you've got a Lucas Van Ness. They're big guys. They're like 270. That's kind of like defensive end weight now these days. So I don't feel like I think the biggest thing now is probably you're gonna have to maybe find another linebacker in this whole ordeal. Like weak sides for I feel like Quay Walker's gonna be the weak side, a little bit more room to roam. Now the question is, do you keep Devondre Campbell for another year? Kind of thought maybe he was going to be a cap casualty, but maybe do you keep him now? And is he your middle linebacker? And Isaiah McDuffie's your strong side over there? I think now that kind of makes it into a little bit of a bigger question mark. Even if you do keep those three, you still need a little bit more depth after that.
Do you think it's the right move to do that?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And I think Packers fans, for those who wanted, and I think this is where the term aggressive is coming from when you talk about this style of defense, because you're going to get a little bit more single high safety. We know Jeff Hafley wants to play press man coverage, but also now too with this style of 4-3, your guys are going to be closer to the line of scrimmage. And I think if you're a Packers fan, that's what you want, because you're not going to get that style of defense, at least in my opinion, where it's going to be, we're going to force you to drive the length of the field every single drive, where you got to be perfect almost every single play to score. You're not going to get that with this style. You're going to get guys that are closer to the line of scrimmage. You're not going to get, hopefully, too many of the, hey, 3rd and 5, no problem, because they're playing so far off sort of thing. You're going to have more, it's going to be jammed up a little bit more. So I like this, but I also like, because Hafley if you look at what he did in Boston College and such, it wasn't just straight up 4-3. He incorporated elements of 3-4 in there too. So I am cautiously optimistic, and I kind of like this. And I think a big part of this too is, I think Matt LaFleur looked at this and like, okay, we finally have to figure out the run defense issue. And by bringing in this style, I think is going to help in that department.
Yeah, because you got more of a wall up front. I'm thinking very practically, wall up front, but you still have the ability to potentially wrap around a little bit, get to the, maybe get some backfield stops.
I think Kenny Clark's going to be a dude that's going to benefit from this quite a bit.
So you can't double team him as often. Simple as that.
Yeah. I think he's going to benefit from this. I think Quay Walker is going to benefit from this, being a little bit more of that roaming weak side linebacker. You're thinking, okay, give examples of like some weak side linebackers. Let's go back to Lance Briggs, Derek Brooks, those type of linebackers. Pretty darn good, right? I'd be okay if Quay Walker developed into one of those guys.
And I think he can.
I'd be 100% fine if he was one's a Hall of Famer and one was a pest for Packers for many years. So
yeah, I think there's a potential for this to work.
And one of the things too that was can't remember who said it, somebody who covers the Packers, but it sure looks like Matt LaFleur is bringing in a lot of personalities, enthusiasm, energetic type of guys on this defensive staff. Well, I mean, one of them, I mentioned it. If you're on Hard Knocks, you probably are familiar with Anthony Campanelli, but it might have been Tom Silverstein that said, last year, when you look at the the enthusiasm, the energy from the coaches. Joe Barry was probably the most energetic one, and then it was their pass rush coach, who's now their defensive line coach, Jason Rebovich. Now you got guys coming in here that got a lot of personality, got a lot of fire. And Matt LaFleur last year talked quite a bit about, hey, we need that energy, we need that fire on the defensive side. Now he's bringing in coaches that are going to be like that too, which I think that was a factor in this whole thing. And it seems like, a lot of these position coaches, you've got a former head coach at the college level. He's now your defensive coordinator. Anthony Capinelli, who was getting defensive coordinator talks as your inside linebackers coach, and now you're bringing in a former defensive coordinator to be your pass game coordinator. LaFleur has said so many times, he, looking for that head coach of the defense. You got some experience now with your coaching staff coming in here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to pay dividends. You need teachers to come in. If you're going to switch things up on defense, I'd rather have you bring in some position coaches that have a little bit more experience instead of like bringing in some fresh blood and maybe giving them some first chances, especially when you're switching up your style of defense.
Yeah. So they know what they're instructing.
Mm-hmm.
You also be really, really enthusiastic, but if there's nothing underneath that, then the players are going to figure that out pretty fast. Like, okay, sure, whatever. Right. I think a little bit of flexibility is also good. Again, the ability, Hafley's part of, he can be a 4-3 guy, but he can switch to 3-4. It's those really rigid defensive coordinators we've seen so many times that doesn't tend to work. I mean, yes, you should have a broad philosophy, but when you're like, nope, this is my system. Well, gosh, I'm still having bad flashbacks to the infamous Ed Donatell's shell 2 years ago. So, but that's the thing. Like, if you're going to do that, I mean, maybe you think that's the right concept, but if it doesn't match the player, so it won't work. I hope it sounds like there will be some more flexibility, more adaptation that can happen, which
I want an attitude on defense.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's their goal, what they're trying to build.
And not a Quay Walker, I'm going to do stupid stuff attitude.
No.
Like a Ravens, think of that kind.
I will quote, remember the Titans. Attitude reflects leadership. You bringing in coaches that got a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy. Hopefully the players kind of feed off on that too and get that type of feel. You're right, like that Ravens type of feel. Not stupid in the AFC Championship game where you're like, that level sort of thing. But I mean, even the Chiefs defense have an attitude about them too. They under that Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, like the Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs Ravens. That attitude, that's like the ideal defense. In the
I'll
modern
even go
NFL.
Harbaugh's 49ers defense. You had Patrick Willis and Bowman, those guys up there. That's I want that.
Legion of Boom.
Legion of Boom, exactly. I want that attitude.
If that gets recreated, I think the Packers are they're in a good spot already. They're in a great spot. If they can achieve that, that's a pretty tall order. But if they can get there, they're going to be in a very good spot.
And I'll tell you what, you want Lambeau Field loud. You got your fancy decibel meter like every stadium has now.
Get loud, Lambeau.
Yeah. You want it to consistently get loud, and you want you don't want to have to always pan to Matt LaFleur on the sidelines trying to get everybody pumped up. You have an attitude defense, that's going to get more people amped up.
He's going to be doing that the rest of his career. I think it's locked in at this point. I don't mind that. By the way, how long do you think Hafley stays? Does he want to be a head coach, or does he want to just focus like what you and Justice were talking about on Monday morning, that instead of doing everything in the college game with all the extra stuff and instead focusing on football, you think he wants to be a coordinator, or does he want to step up and be a head coach in the NFL? Yeah,
he ain't going back to college. I think that he's kind of put that out there, even if it's, I guess never say never, but it won't be unless it's like a big Alabama, Ohio State opening or something. Yeah. Even that, I don't know. I think as long as he's straight, I think Matt LaFleur, I look at him as like a football coach. I think he's not going to be, I wouldn't shut the door on him, wanting to be a head coach in the NFL. I think he's probably going to be one of those guys too that's like, hey, I don't want the GM role. I just want to coach straight, like Matt LaFleur. Straight up football.
And maybe
that's all he's got to worry about.
Well, and maybe he ends up being the presumption is always that the coordinator wants to be a head coach. Not every coordinator. I don't think every coordinator wants to be a head coach. Some liked They find their role. They're like, I can focus on this unit. That's my specialty. I love this part of it. Maybe that's his thing. We don't know. But I wouldn't presume that 2 years from now he's going to immediately jump in the Packers got to reimagine their defense.
Well, I will say I think he is in a pretty prime spot that if he turns this thing around and this unit is, say, top 5, he's going to get interviews. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, for sure.
He's going to get interviews. But I also feel like we're getting way down the line here. But let's say it's a Mike McDonald thing. Like the former now Seattle head coach. I think Green Bay is better prepared with some of their assistants coming in that, hey, if Green Bay needs to promote from within, I think they've got better coaching depth there now.
Yeah.
They got a little bit more
really
experience
had
there.
For a while.
Right.
That's true.
I agree. I feel like they've kind of prepared themselves that way too. Just my thoughts.
I see why you're looking forward to this.
No. Yeah.
Like if you could play any position in football, I suspect you'd play defense, right?
Not anymore.
Really?
I'm not fast enough.
Well, I mean, if you could make yourself 24 years old,
I'd
you were a physical specimen.
I'd want to be safety. I want to be a safety.
I figured Dion was like your comp.
I'm not fast enough. Safety or wideout.
Safety. Okay.
Yeah.
I could see you playing safety.
I mean, Dion played safety at the end of his career, so
right.
I'll go with the Woodson route.
Dan Woodson Kasper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Not a bad one. I can see you on. You do seem like more the defensive type.
Yeah. Well, hey, remember what I said about my first email address ever? You remember that?
Yeah. What was it again?
Sporty13D at yahoo.com. And the D was for defense. Not just because Yahoo generated it automatically. That's the reasoning I came up with. So the D was for defense.
That has to be turned into a liner. That has to be a liner.
The D is for defense. Yeah.
Just to remind the people.
Mm-hmm.
We're on it.
Sporty13D. I wonder if I can make that a Gmail account now. That would be.
You probably could.
Sporty13D.
I do it right now in case there's like one stan out there. It's like, yeah, I'm going to claim that. I bet you probably could. It's going to be your birder Twitter account. Who the heck is Sporty13D? Why does it come ripping on Packer stuff? That's Kasper.
Sporty13D. Sounded like Hudson, though. He told me the other day, he's like, Dad, first of all, started off, why didn't you go to the NFL? Good question, son. I feel like I really disappointed you right now that I didn't. So
my gosh, that's
and then he followed it up the next day by saying, I don't understand why that I'm going to be the only family member in the NFL. Like, geez,
whoa,
way to make me feel awful.
Oh my gosh,
really awful over there. So
he doesn't understand.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
the only
the
lineage.
Yep. Exactly.
So is he going to have like a Kasper Jr. on his jersey?
Kasper
the second?
Maybe. Junior.
Gosh. Boy.
So.
Oh, gosh.
All right. We got to take a quick break. We'll do some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. We'll do that coming up. And Luke's Super Bowl pick, too. We'll get that on the market board. That's coming up after these quick words. We know Mike's Star Market is your go-to place for quality and flavor when it comes to brats, steaks, burgers, and chicken. And Mike's is also your go-to place when it comes to snack sticks, jerky, and now freeze-dried candy. So many different flavors of freeze-dried candy that you'll want to try them all. And whenever you walk into Mike's Star Market, you're likely to find something new to try. It's almost like you are on a scavenger hunt when you head on over to Mike's Star Market. So, whether you're looking for something to make for dinner or to stock up on some different snacks, head on over to Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire. Reminder too, in case you've missed any portions of the episode, we put some of the highlights up on the Man Cave podcast. Big thanks to all the new listens, more listens, and new subscribers, and actually some new ratings and such out there. So big thanks for that. Continue to do that. If you got a few seconds, if you don't mind, give it a 5-star rating and a positive review so others can find the podcast like on Apple and Spotify and such. All right, let's do some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire, located next to the Banbury Place. If you're looking somewhere to catch the game on Sunday, head on over to the Elbow Room right next to Banbury Place there. Especially if you're a Niners fan, they've got some Niners decor hanging up on the walls over there too.
Are they the Niners bar of the area?
Yes.
Okay.
100%. Yes.
Cool.
So, also got some sweet Packer swag up there too. So, I'm looking at some of these games here. I mean, we got a couple college ones, and I think that's where we're going to focus on. Number 16, Alabama at number 12, Auburn.
Oh boy, the not Iron Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Gosh, and Auburn. I'm not just going to say upsets because that's what. No, I'm going to go Auburn in this one.
I'm going to go Auburn. I'm actually a little surprised that the line is 5.5, though. I figured it'd be a little bit closer.
Yeah,
a little closer, but yeah, I'm going to go Auburn. And the reason I guess I'm saying that too is because Wisconsin at Michigan, that line's only 5.5 for Wisconsin.
Ooh, nobody respects the Badgers.
Yeah,
I'm taking Wisconsin in that one. I'm gonna have them cover.
Yeah, I'm taking Scotty, and I think they cover. I don't know if I want to say easily, but I'm confident in that win
fairly
tonight.
Confident in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but I do.
Honestly, if they would have beaten Nebraska and Purdue, I maybe would be like, trap game. But I'm not going to go that route.
It seems like a bit of a stretch. How worried are you if they lose?
I'm not worried. I'm just upset.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. Like, annoyed.
Yeah.
Like, really? Are we? And especially if they, like, play like they did in the second half against Nebraska, where they reverted to last year's kind of Badgers, where it's like, okay, hero ball, isolation, space, everything out. We're going to take the shot clock all the way down and all that crap. So,
yeah, don't do that.
I'm going to throw this one in there. Both teams stink this year, but it don't matter. Villanova, Xavier.
Man, there's a time when that one would actually be pretty good.
I know.
And it will be again. I just don't know exactly when.
Both teams at 12-10, by the way. So
Nova, why not?
Yeah, I'm going Nova. Xavier's favored by 3.5.
Okay.
3.5. So, what else do we want? We want to go Notre Dame Duke on this one. Where's the line on this thing?
Duke 16.5.
Yeah, no. Oh, okay. Duke wins, but I don't think they cover.
I don't think they cover either. But it'll be close.
16.5.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah. Let's do a couple NBA games. Why not? We've got. The slate's not that great, to be honest with you. Golden State at Philly. Maybe that actually is better without Joel Embiid.
That's the thing. It's probably closer that way. I'll take the Sixers. I know Golden State's favored, but I'll still take
by 4.5 on the road too.
Yeah,
and they're 9-12 on the road.
Yeah, that's that bunch of an Embiid drop.
Mm-hmm.
I'll still take the current Philly team over the former Philly team.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Sixers too. That's just wow. All right.
I'm a little surprised by that, but I guess the odds makers know they get paid for people to get to pay money, I guess.
We'll do this one. Pelicans at the Clippers. Pelicans are 29-21 on the season, but the Clippers, as you noted a little bit earlier, they're a shock riser, favored by 7.5.
I'll take the Clips.
Do you think they cover?
Yes, I do. They're that hot right now.
I think I'll go with that too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that one. All right, let's get your name on the marker board. Who are you rolling with right now? Majority going, slight majority, but it is a majority going with the 49ers.
Gosh, I'm all over the map on this one. Oof. Kansas City.
All right. We'll put you under the Chiefs over there.
I might
Can't change it once
and
you're
I'm
on the
not in
market
this
board.
one. My official my pick of integrity is going to be Kansas City. I may personally buy this weekend shift, but that's what it's down. Okay, I'm gonna say it's Kansas City.
What drew you to pick Kansas City?
Spagnuolo's defense, Kansas City's savvy. I don't know that I trust Shanahan as much as I trust Reed.
The savvy is in the villain role now.
Yeah, I guess. Like they know their stuff. San Francisco's have played. They're not the upstarts, but
The way San Francisco's been playing in the postseason with their slow starts would make a guy nervous.
when
Because
you
I
said
feel
that
like,
last week, that's sticking with me too. And I mean, I've seen it. I've in both of those games, the Packers game and in the Lions game.
because if they start off slow and they're down at half, they ain't coming back against
No.
the Chiefs.
No, I think Kansas City wins this one.
Mm-hmm.
But
All right.
again, I could be convinced. I want to give the Mina Kimes podcast a listen because those always get really detailed, and I'm waiting until later on, so it's like fresher in my mind. So after listening to that, there might be some nugget where I go, "Oh wait, what am I thinking? This is totally the Niners." But I don't know. So right now, if I took in no more information until Sunday, I'm going to say Kansas City.
If you had a personal rooting interest, does that change at all?
Maybe a bit, and I'm totally agnostic, ambivalent, however, whatever you want to call it about Kansas City. I don't really have a take one way or the other on them. Uniform guy that I am, that sounds like what, but I kind of want Kansas City to win because of this whole stupid teams won't only win the Super Bowl in white jerseys thing, which I know that's a thing, but stop. So I kind of want Kansas City to win just to put that to rest. But I'd also like to see San Francisco win. It's the whole like, oh, they're a good enough team. They feel like they should win a title. I'm not one of those that thinks everybody should win, though. I think everyone, have a fair shot at it.
They've won enough.
The thing is, it's been a long time.
Boo-hoo.
I know, but it's okay.
Okay, that's so ironic coming from you saying it's been a long time since they've won. You've never won.
Exactly. I know there's some hard irony in that, but it feels like, at least to me, maybe it's just me, it feels like the Niners have won it more recently than they have. Like with the Ravens, when they made it to the conference championship, it felt like they've been there in the last 5 years, and it had been 11. It feels like the Niners have won it more frequently. And maybe that's because it was so stained in my memory from the Niners winning so often when I was younger. The first Super Bowl I remember watching was Super Bowl 19, Dolphins 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the 49ers as being the cream of the NFL is one of my first memories. So maybe that's why I feel like they should have won it more frequently than since 1994. Like the Cowboys have won it more recently than the 49ers.
Yeah.
Ugh, wow. And the Cowboys have this epic losing streak. So, or drought, I should say. But I'm okay either way, honestly. I want a good game.
I'll make my official pick on Friday, and I'll do it by whether I wear my Niners Dion jersey or not. How about that?
Ooh, nice choice.
Yeah. How about that?
I will say, one other thing. At a minimum, I don't want Brock Purdy to have a bad game because I want to put that narrative to rest. It's a stupid narrative. We talked about it last week, game manager. And if he sucks in this game, we're going to have to go through this for at least even into next season. Even if the Niners lose, if he has a good game and it's not his fault, we can stomp that out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's ready and raring to come back. And I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
Just get rid of a stupid sports argument, please.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But it's going to happen.
Yeah,
it's
probably.
Gonna happen. And honestly, what didn't help that cause either too was the Tom Brady thing that, Kyle Shanahan was going to have Tom Brady or ask Tom Brady to come play.
It's like, but it's Tom Brady. Like, yes, but no.
Yeah, that not going to help either.
No.
Even though it was inadvertently,
right.
It got blown up bigger than what it actually was.
Right.
So, all right, I'll put you up on the marker board.
KC
and the Sunshine Band. Well,
get down.
yeah, have a good rest of your Wednesday. Let's do it again tomorrow morning, just past 6. We'll talk to you then.